Okay, the meeting will come to order. I have a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Have a motion to have a second.
Second.
Have a motion, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next is approval of the minutes of the October 20th, 2015 regular school board meeting. Have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Have a second.
Second.
Have a motion, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next is recognition. First is the schools with the highest percentage of attendance. Mr. Carter.
We have a couple of newcomers this month to the highest percentage of attendance for the county, and I'd like to congratulate Jonesville Middle School for having 95.3% of attendance. Elk Knob came in second with 94.6%. So Jonesville Middle School will have the attendance trophy for this month, and I'd like to congratulate them on a job well done.
Okay, next is the Virginia School Board Association School Board Academy Awards. Mr. Carter.
The Virginia School Board Association Board of Directors encourages participation in the Academy and recognizes individual board members interested in becoming further educated in boardmanship skills and curriculum issues through attendance at the Academy programs. And we'd like to recognize our board members tonight that have participated. This is from the Virginia School Board Association. It is an award of excellence. This is presented to Debbie Jesse for her commitment to effective school board governance through her participation in the Virginia School Board Academy, 2013 through 2015. And she also gets a silver pen. Virginia School Boards Association recognizes Mr. E. Kyle Chadwell with this award of recognition for his commitment to effective school board governance through his participation in the Virginia School Board Academy 2014 through 2015. And the Virginia School Board Association would like to recognize Mr. E. Ty Harbor for his commitment to effective school board governance through his participation in the Virginia School Board Academy 2014-15.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. Next is Evadale Elementary is going to do their advanced ed presentation. Mr. Raven. Back here out of everyone's vision. Good evening. I'm Shannon Grable, a principal for Evadale Elementary. I'm flying solo tonight. We've got a ball game. All my teachers are there. And Chris showed me how to work. I guess I'm good at wrong already. Chris. Evadale School. It's a great place to learn. I've only been there since October 20th of last year, but I came down from Thomas Walker as vice principal. Didn't know what I was getting into. It's great. I've really enjoyed it. We've got a great faculty and a great bunch of kids. Try it this way now. Okay, now Chris did it again. I'll just stay over here. Okay, about Evadale. We're nestled in the rolling hills, no, not the other way now, of the Appalachian Mountains. Evadale School is where learning begins in Virginia, or where it ends, depending on which direction you're coming from. And it is the first school entering the most southwest part of Virginia. Our school consists of 139 students. Our membership is derived primarily from the communities of Ewing and Rose Hill in Lee County. We have 30 faculty and staff members, including principal, guidance counselor, reading and math specialists, media specialists, 2 5th grade, 2 6th grade, 2 7th grade, and other support staff. We're the only 5 through 7 school in Lee County. We have students who come from homes in very low socioeconomic levels, with 77% of our students receiving free or reduced lunch. And this was the numbers from last year. We have a program this year where none of our children have to pay for breakfast or lunch. And that really makes a difference with the kids. And with the parents, of course. Here are some pictures of our faculty. Our specialists, part of our special education aides. Some of them were a little bit camera shy and we couldn't get them out. Secretary, nurse, part of our cafeteria staff. And some of our notable achievement awards. One I will add, we had the attendance award for the first 2 months this year. And we had it for 2 months last school year also. We do have a high rate of at-risk disadvantaged students, but EODL has notable academic achievements. It has achieved state accreditation in the past, with the exception of year before last. However, following testing this past year, we are back up to accreditation again. And our school's mathematics average was raised by 19%. And I can't take any credit for that. I've got some excellent faculty. They really worked with the students. We have a remediation person now that's also helping us, doing great. We still have a ways to go, but we're getting there. Our goal for the EODL community is to continue to meet all standards of accreditation, as well as state and federal objectives, as well as continue to show progress across all content areas. And also, we're striving to get our community more involved, get our parents into the school, grandparents in, everybody that we can. We've had a few different events last year, and they came together, and in 2 hours, they raised $2,000 for us, our community, which was great. Student awards, here's part of our Perfect Attendance Awards, 4-H winner, Spelling Bee, Physical Fitness Awards. This was our Lee County Spelling Bee winner last year, Alden Muncie. He is 7th grade now, and he won the 2014-15 Spelling Bee, and he did go to Knoxville to compete in March of last year. And he's in the running again this year. He's already going for it. We had our preliminaries the other day. And he is also one of our head Boy Scouts for the area, coming along very well. And there's an attendance award. Okay, various events. We have to have a little bit of fun too. Here is some of our Halloween things. The middle picture and over to the side is our Reading Christmas special, where they did explaining the reading of the Christmas story, going into that, Santa Claus and all this, of course. The kids had a great time. We put on about a 30-minute production. Down here at the bottom are 2 of our veterans from last year. We had a program, and if anyone is down in our area tomorrow, 8:45, we're having breakfast for the vets, and we will have a program at 9:30 for them. So if anyone's in the area, please stop by for breakfast with us. I missed one there. And we have some local resources. I won't read all these to you, but Mountain Empire, Lincoln Memorial, UVA Wise. We've got the museums in Southwest Virginia, the Harry Mead Cole Museum, and right across the road in our front door is the Wilderness State Park, who is a big asset to us. They really help us a lot. And one of mine I have to mention is Mr. Harold Gerald. A lot of folks here know Harold. Excellent photographer. You may see some of his work around the school board office and various places. And of course, we now have the Lee Theater. And Monday we'll have our students at Lee High for the Symphony of the Mountains. We're looking forward to that. And this is some shots from Wilderness Road when they have their different events. And our students, since it's across the road, it's not far to go, and they really have a good time with it. Yeah, how would you like to see him coming across at you there? And the craftsmen that they have, it's very interesting. They let the kids get down and really see what they're doing. And Mr. Harold Gerald, I mentioned, this is one of his pictures. That tree was cut last year in the area. I forget, it's way over 100 years old, and he was doing a photo journal on it. And I didn't realize this when I saw the picture. That's my cousin that's doing the work there. Didn't even realize it. And here's some more pictures of Harold with different areas, and then the White Rocks. And that's all I have. I just want to say thank you, and if anybody's in the area, please stop by and visit us.
Thank you, Shannon. I would like to commend you for getting the community involved. Shannon always has something going on with the park or coming at Lester Park, and this past year he had his 7th grade graduation over at the state park on the outside, which worked really well. I mean, you have some programs this year, don't you, at the park?
Yes, sir, we do. Our children will be there this month. They're getting the trees ready, and they've given them 3 different trees to decorate their park. So we'll make the ornaments, and it's going to be fun.
Thank you, Shannon. Okay, next is public expression. Maybe Michael, public expression.
Do I just stand up there?
You
Okay, good. Good evening. My name is Brad Mathieson. I live in Norton, and I work for the Catholic Diocese of Richmond. And I was just coming to inform and ask the approval of the board, if necessary, of a use of facilities request form that we are putting in for next summer between the dates of June 17th and 15th for a large group of high school volunteers from throughout the state to come down and stay in the school using the classrooms and the cafeteria and the locker rooms and so forth for that week in order to house the volunteers, roughly about 250 of them. And throughout the week, they'll be doing home repair projects throughout the community. And we've done this the past 4 years in Central Virginia with using different school systems. And I've finally coaxed them to bring it down into far Southwest Virginia. And they're open to it. We just need a place to house the volunteers. And in the past 3 or 4 years, we usually run maybe 25 to 30 projects in that 8-day period of time, anywhere from painting homes to installing wheelchair ramps or handicap accessible doors, or just a myriad of different projects. So I've already filled out the request form, and I went and talked with Principal Warner, is that right? At Lee County High School, and she, I guess, sort of gave me the impression that I should come and inform y'all and give you the rundown of what we're requesting and get your comments on it if you had any, or questions, answer any questions if y'all have any.
Any questions?
It's an excellent project.
Great, thanks. So, from my understanding, I just need Principal Warner to sign the approval form if she's okay with it, if we can work out scheduling things with her, and then it'll go on through. Is that correct?
We'd have to vote on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have the paper.
Actually, I don't have these. Actually, last month, email that you presented to me, I presented that to the board last month. The board discussed it. And of course, the first step is to get a principal to fill out the request form and get the principal to approve that, and then she'll send that on down to the school board office for approval once she approves that.
Okay.
So I'm not sure where we're at in that process. Sounds like you've completed the form.
I have, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, well then I'll just follow up with her and
Okay.
try to move that process along. Thanks so much for your time. And if you do have any questions, you have my email, and you're more than welcome to ask me, and I'll be as informative as possible. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anyone else?
I've got a question. With this public expression forum, does it have to be submitted in writing before bringing it to the board's attention?
No.
No. Okay. All right, then. have a little list, and I'm only gonna attain to 2 on my list because I find them urgent. My name is Mary Cox. I've got 3 wonderful teenage boys that attend school in Lee County. In the past year, just this school year, I've had several difficulties with the administration there of different varieties. And that's just in this 1 year. And mind you, I've got one child that's been there since 8th grade. My first and foremost is a guidance counselor. My son is applying to several scholarships, okay? Last month was the deadline for the Algiers Horatio Scholarship in particular. One of the requirements on the scholarship is to have a guidance counselor sign off. You send an email request to the guidance counselor. Guidance counselor gets some type of form of some type. I don't know exactly what it looks like because I haven't seen it. But they're required to fill it out and send it on down the line by a certain time. Miss Graham retired after she was sent the first email. The school assistant principal, Mr. Mark Long, as well as Janet Neal, the guidance counselor secretary, assured my oldest son, who this applies to, that they would get in touch with her and just reiterate that the email was there for her to do with. That was about 3 days before the deadline. That was the Friday before the deadline, and Monday, the 26th of October was the deadline at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I instructed on Monday morning for my son to go to Mr. Long and explain to him the importance of this getting submitted because he couldn't even have his submitted without it. And to just go in there and maybe change to Mark Long's information and maybe have him fill it out since there is no guidance counselor. Mr. Long and Miss Neal decided to tell my son, no, you know, that's not how it works, and that we would contact Miss Graham and have her fill it out before the deadline at 5 p.m. or 5:30. So 5 minutes to 5. My son is getting home off the school bus and he calls me at work to tell me that that's not, you know, what I had desired was not going to happen. So then I found Mark Long's personal number, contacted him. He of course does not have email. We're in this massive rush to get, hopefully, a scholarship offer submitted. This is one example of some of the crazy, challenging things that have come to play just in this year. I've tried to work with the administrators at the school for several years to try to find out where communication failure is. Where do you go when you can't even talk to the principal? Where do you go? I'm not from Lee County. I'm not, you know, in the rumor mill or the clique and, you know, the tight-knit families around here. I'm not in that group. And I've gotten nowhere. The other thing, it's just majorly urgent to me, is that the kids are getting educated. You know, and I brought this, I even copied this when I had to talk to Connie Dougherty about kids being on school-free lunch or reduced lunch issues that I went with. I even sent her a copy of this. The Board of Education for the state of Virginia sets out goals. And for the 2012-2017 school year, there are 7 goals. Out of 7 goals, I will say Thomas Walker has completed 1. And I have been looking for the answer to how they are going forward to meet these goals. Haven't been able to find the answer. And so I'm trying to start here. I started at the school. For 2 years now, I've kind of got the runaround. And so now I guess I'm here. And trying to figure out where the system is. I mean, I don't have the answers of how to run a school, but there have been multiple problems with whether it be classroom structure or acknowledgement and accountability on how that is taken care of and making sure it's taken care of. And everybody tells me it's taken care of, and it's not. So, don't know. But I really would hope that there's a guidance counselor. Lee High School has, 680 students. They have 3 guidance counselors. That's what they told me as of last week. Thomas Walker, somewhere between 250 and 300, they have none. Why? A month? Maybe because I think, in my opinion, my own opinion, because it's an election year, I'm sorry, a week is too long. Students are low income in this area, and y'all know that. But why hinder their possibility of success? It is not acceptable, in my eyes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, under reports, American Education Week, Mr. Carter.
American Education Week presents all Americans with a wonderful opportunity to celebrate public education and honor individuals who are making a difference in ensuring that every child receives a quality education. This year's theme is Great Public Schools, a Basic Right and Our Responsibility. And this will be reflected during the week of November the 16th through the 20th in special observances each day of the week-long celebration. Monday's Kickoff Day, Tuesday is Parents' Day, Wednesday is Education Support Professionals Day, Thursday is Educator for a Day, and Friday is Substitute Educators Day.
Okay, next is School Psychology Awareness Week.
School Psychology Awareness Week's theme this year is Connect the Dots and Thrive. And it is the goal to help connect students to academic and social, emotional skills that they need in order to promote personal achievement, growth, and resilience, as well as a sense of belonging and well-being.
Okay, Freedom of Information Act, Conflict of Interest.
The Virginia School Board Association has provided some copies of the Freedom of Information Act for you, the State and Local Government Conflict of Interest Act, and the Virginia Public Records Act. All public officials, including school board members, must read and familiarize themselves with the provisions of these 3 acts. And you also have a letter from our school board attorney on some changes that have taken place in the conflict of interest disclosures. And then those 3 codes are copied for you there.
Okay, next is enrollment.
Our enrollment for the month of October, we ended with 3,079 students. That's down 6 students from this same period last month, and it's down 52 students from the same period last year.
Okay, next is the audit report, Ms. Lambert.
Good evening. In your packets, you have a copy of the School Activity Fund audit reports. There are 2 separate reports. One addresses the school activity funds and the other the cafeteria funds as they go through the school accounting. You also have a communication from the auditor where they tell you the different actions that they did and they list their findings. The back page of that section tells you what findings each school had. And although we always have findings, Tamara did compliment their schools and tell us that we do have improvement. So we're just continuing to work towards less findings.
Questions, anyone? You want to go ahead and do the financial, Ms. Lamb?
Yes. Our financial activity for the month of October, we received revenues totaling $2,958,733.40. As of October 31st, we had received 28.35% of our estimated revenues for the year. Our expenditures for the month of October totaled $3,408,528.36. And as of October 31st, we had used 18.74% of our appropriations for the year. Between last meeting and this one, our supplemental appropriation for the child nutrition program was approved, so that will be added to our appropriations before the November statement is completed. That's all I have, unless anyone has questions.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to the action agenda items. First is consider revision to the grading policy. Mr. Dean?
Thank you. In your packet, you should have had some information about the grading policy and a little history on why this came up. Back in the September principals meeting, some teachers had expressed some concerns about the specific policy that says no grade lower than 10 points below the minimum passing grade for that class will be recorded as the average for the first grading period. We had some discussion. Mr. Carter asked me to gather some data and form a committee and possibly make a recommendation to the board. And on October the 8th, we sent out a task stream message asking for input, and those comments are in your packet. We only received less than 20, so we decided to try to get some more comments. On the 20th of October, we sent out a survey, and we received 85 responses. And of those, 60% said to do away with that part of the policy. 18% said to keep it, and 20% had comments. And if you look at those comments, about half of them essentially say to do away with it, and then the other half have other suggestions. And after getting back with the committee, the recommendation is to do away with that part of the grading policy. I did ask Mr. Miles to run a report for me, and he ran that report, and it looked like about 550 grades were given that would apply to this in the first 9 weeks. That 550 students got the bare minimum that this policy applies to. So our recommendation is to do away with that part of the policy.
Section 4.
Number 4 in that policy, yes.
Have you been on the committee that put that in against my objections? I'll make that motion to delete it.
Second.
Second. Have a motion second. All in favor, say aye.
None.
Opposed?
I do have one more question, Mr. Dean, please.
Yes, ma'am.
That number 5 there, where it says that we are on 9-week grading periods. Is that reflected in all of our policies that we are on 9 weeks?
We got some discussion yesterday at the communication meeting that we believe there are some policies that are still reflective of 6 weeks. And I think Mr. Carter asked that we go through those and find those.
Yes, Ms. Jessie, I'm actually working on a review of local policies and have made a few changes. I remember noting that in this policy, and we'll of course get these changes adopted. But there are a few more out there.
It's fair to say, I think we need to have some consistency on what we're grading on.
Thank you.
Excuse me, one question. I read all those comments, Mr. Dean, and I wasn't so sure that all those people talk for us.
I copied and pasted exactly as they were sent to me,
Okay.
with the typos and everything else. I didn't change them.
Suggestions in there. Anyway, thank you. And next, to consider revisions to fundraising and field trip policy. Ms. Donner?
Mr. Carter and board members, I believe you have in your packet the revised policy as submitted by the committee. Let's see if you have questions. Okay.
I have a few questions,
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Chair. First off, in number 3 there, why the change to submit just to the division rather than the school board?
The feeling of the committee was that if they were submitted at the beginning and something come up before a board meeting, that they would have to wait till that board meeting or could not go on the field trip, and they wanted to submit to the division instead of the board.
Wouldn't it be better to follow kind of the state policy where it says kind of the superintendent or superintendent's designee rather than just saying district?
Is that what you want changed?
Well, I mean, when you say kind of a division, it's kind of it's an object rather than an actual person that would be making the approval.
So you want superintendent or designee?
Well, I mean, some of the other policies that we're going to do tonight use that terminology.
Okay, we can do that.
When would the annual report of the field trips then, would that be at the end of the school year?
You know, as in the past, they've always submitted at the beginning, but then there's always been field trips that come up. And if you're requesting that we can add that in here, that they submit a final report of field trips, we can certainly do that as well.
Well, I mean, I'm thinking if we're not doing at the beginning of it, in other words, if, to use your terminology, division, if the division is approving it throughout the year, then the annual report probably should be submitted at the end of the school year to us.
It's my understanding that we will still submit the field trips at the beginning of the year to the board for approval. But sometimes, just as we had one in here for Head Start, that they didn't submit or forgot, or sometimes it's something that'll come up during the year that they're not aware of at the beginning of the year when they submit. I think it's what they're asking for, but we would still, according to the policy, submit at the beginning of the year all field trips to the board for approval.
Well, couldn't then just a statement be said that later on that field trips could be approved on a case-by-case basis?
Any field trips that arise after,
Like the September meeting or
Right.
something like that could be approved at a later date on a case-by-case basis. And if, in number 2, if neither one of those are going to be counted, is there any need to have them in there?
Some principals were counting them and some weren't. We didn't know, as a committee, I don't think.
And I'm thinking in particular of where it says the curriculum competitions. More so than anything, is there any need to put that in there?
And I think that comes from the Career Center probably. They were concerned when they have to go on their academic.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, since that's part and
So
it's
you
not
want that
going to be
taken out?
counted, I think we might as well just delete that.
Okay.
And rather than maybe assigned, approved or something, because assigned sounds like you all are actually going to say, you're going on this field trip.
Where is that?
Same, number 2.
Number 2.
We're
Field
taking
trips
that out.
assigned.
We're taking those
We're
things out.
going to take the whole thing out, no problem.
Okay.
And I see we're upping the fee for the trip.
Well, actually, the mileage, we've spoken with Mr. Engel about this, and it actually costs almost $2 a mile for the bus to run.
I wondered about that dollar fee anyway. Should we maybe put in there also about the general permission and medical release? Needs to be obtained before the trip is taken.
Okay, we can do that. I'm sure they do that anyway, but we can put it.
I know, that's what I'm saying. I know you can't put everything in the policy, but just a few, making sure that they are aware that this needs to be done. Having gutted it, I think, I'll make that motion.
So I say you need to put that in form of motion with those revisions. Oh, go ahead, Mr. Twill.
Yeah, I was just also, this is kind of indirectly related to this, but, you know, where we're charging a $2 per mile fee, where actually does that money go? Does it go back to the general account, or does it go back into the transportation?
Denise actually puts it back into our general fund in order to pay for the fuel, because we pay for the fuel here. And tires and wear and tear on the bus. And Mr. Engel just generated that report today, and it was $1.92 a mile for what it costs to run the bus.
Okay.
We have there is a line item in the local revenue that is pupil transportation. That's those reimbursements we get.
So it goes into that? Okay, sounds good.
I'll make the motion that we approve it with the additions and deletions. Amended, as amended.
You get all those, Ms. Dunn?
I think I'll have.
Okay.
Thank you.
Have a motion, have a second?
I'll second.
Have a motion second, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, next is the Virginia School Board Association policy updates. Mr. Adams?
Good evening. As you noticed in your packet, it was very lean this time. I did take Mrs. Jessie's recommendation, and all of these policies have been updated. Waiting your approval. Recommend that all of these be approved, and most of them, as you can tell from the comments, were just technical or editing, except for IKFA. And the board must choose one of the following statements. And this relates to locally awarded verified credits appeal process. And the statement, the decision of the review panel will be final, or the decision of the review panel may be appealed to the school board in accordance with regulations developed by the board. And I believe in the past that the first one has been used.
I'll make that motion. Go ahead. With the first one.
Yeah. I'll second.
Okay, the motion second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
They're ready.
Okay, consider approval of the Head Start field trip request. Mr. Carter.
We have a field trip request that came in from Head Start that has not been approved by the board. That's a request to travel to Middlesboro, Kentucky.
Have a motion to approve? I'll make that motion. Have a second?
Second.
Have a motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, consider approval of payment of the bills. Need a motion? I'll make that motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. I have a motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next is reports and recommendations of the board. Mr. Twigg?
Lucas, remember last month I was telling you, asking about those time clocks, and you said it's part of the Affordable Health Care Act and all that stuff. And I asked you if you could find that and send out a task stream to the teachers to make them aware of that policy. Is there any way we can do that?
We can send out the basis for the requirement. The
Okay.
Affordable Care Act does allow employers to do that. I don't know that the time clock are mandated by the ACA, but that is where board and a lot of employers are moving toward is tracking those hours to maintain ACA compliance, whether it's by time clock, time card, or some other mechanism, but I can certainly get that information out.
If you could get that together and get that out, and that way maybe I could ring my phone about why we're having to do this.
That will be done by the end of the week.
I appreciate it. That's all I have.
Okay, Ms.
Whoever, you. Here you go.
Go ahead.
I'd like to congratulate the Pennington Middle School students for having their paragraph published in the Right On section of the Kingsport paper on November the 4th. Also, I'd like to, since I may be out of town next week, I'd like to thank all of our staff for their hard work and dedication, since next week is American Education Week. And I think one day that I was on our website, I thought I saw something on calendar survey. Was there something on there, Mr. Fee?
Yes.
Oh, yes, it was.
Okay, well, I went back to re-look at it today and I couldn't find it. Have you already taken it off? How long?
We ran that for what, 2 weeks?
It was through November 2nd.
Did you get any responses at all to it?
Those responses came to Ms. Stoddard.
Three. Okay, well, it's 3. Okay. That's it.
Mr. Weed?
Couple of things. Being a veteran, I'd like to tell everyone that if you've never been a veteran or been around a veteran, I don't think being in service was anything what I thought it was going to be when I went and served my time. And I don't know where there's any other veterans here tonight or not. If there is, I wish you'd raise your hand there.
I've got one.
Right, we got one right back yonder. And we certainly appreciate your service and everything to this. But I'm very proud to have been there, and I'd like to wish everyone happy Veterans Day. Also, right before I came down here, of course, I'd been thinking about this ever since I've been on the school board. And now that I'm about to go off, I can leave it to the next board. But I've always been amazed, because I taught driver education for 30 years in school, that buses never had seat belts on them. School buses are the only thing I know. If you go out here and get in your car, you're required by law to fasten your seat belt. And if you don't, you can be fined for it. School buses, did you ever stop and think that if you're sitting in that school bus and it were to do a sudden stop, where those kids fly up to? And there's nothing there except metal around for them to land on. And I'd often wondered about this, and tonight, just as I was leaving the house, I happened to see where Kingsport City Schools have seat belts on their buses. And this is very important. And for 30 years, they have not had a child sent to the hospital with an accident that seatbelt caused. And yet around them, every one of the communities have had children sent time and again. And it is expensive. They said probably $8,000 a bus to put some padding in and put seats in these things. But if it saves one kid's life, it would be worth everything. And I know that budget's tight here, and I know it's going to be tight for the next school board. But I certainly wish that we could start working somewhere toward the possibility of getting seat belts on buses, because that's the most dangerous thing I know of. And I feel very strong about this. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Weed.
We might even get a new bus.
You know, we got to get the bus before we get the seat belt. I realize that.
I'd like to thank everybody for their hard work, all the teachers and administrators and everybody that puts in the front line work with the kids. That's all I got.
Okay, I want to congratulate the Thomas Walker High School Junior Varsity volleyball team and Coach Serber for winning the district championship last Friday at Racco. They worked really hard, and the kids worked hard. So congratulations to them. Okay, do we need a motion to go into executive session? Mr. Harper, will you read us in?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, make a motion, we go into executive closed session to consider personnel section 2.2-3711A1, discipline of a student, section 2.2-3711A2, and pending litigation, section 2.2-3711A7 of the Code of Virginia to discuss personnel, discipline of a student, and pending litigation.
Have a second?
Second.
Have a motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?